Take a seat. Thank you for coming. On a day like this, we left this open-ended, so we're and thank you for coming here. Today, we have a very distinguished guest. I want to welcome all of you for coming to our conversation with Dayamani Barla, right here, who will be our speaker today. And we're going to say a few words beforehand. Dayamani is here from India as part of the UMass Lowell Greeley Peace Scholar for Peace at UMass Lowell. It's part of an endowment that the Greeley Foundation made to UMass Lowell. And since 2008, there have been 13. Dayamani is the 13th Greeley Peace Scholar. So what we'd like to do is ask for your attention just for a little bit to have two people who are here from, and there are several really wonderful guests here you'll get to meet, but we'd like to have Mary Clark and Cece King talk to us a little bit about the origins of the Greeley Foundation. They were part of that original group.
She's introduced.
Good afternoon, everyone.
We're gonna do that?
Oh, I'd rather not.
Marilyn and all the hard work and a tribute to Dana Greeley and certainly a tribute to Diane Lonnie. When I think of the Reverend Dana McLean, really, two words come to mind.
This video. I can't. I got to put my new hearing aid in after a
Words
beat.
which I
I
think,
can't hear it.
I'm sure he would have applied to you.
Can you mute their
Diane
mics?
Lonnie. We'll see why.
Yeah, well, that's what you got.
Dana inspired.
Now you can't get this.
Breathed life into our souls, our hearts, our minds. His sermons delivered with such firmness made us aspire to do better. During the last years of his life, I remember calling Betty King, saying, how can we keep that spirit going? A chair at Harvard? Possible, but no. It was Dana's vision to create something more living, more widespread, that reached many people in many countries and could keep going. That was his dream. Let me read to you from Dana's book, Forward to the Ages, something about his dreams. It's from Dana himself in 1975, about 10 years before he died. I have a far-ranging hope that ultimately we shall develop a reverence for life that will be the finest reaction against our secularism. I have a strong belief that a deep need is for the dignifying or sanctifying of all human life. Things are not sacred, or money, or states, or power, but people are sacred. I have a far-ranging hope that we can more and more determine all our thoughts and conduct in the light of universal ethics and a world order. All of us can plant the seeds of peace in our own hearts, in local and federal legislation, in all kinds of organizations, and in daily human relations. We are bound to celebrate the days that are gone, but we must have vision and courage for the days that are to come. Every reunion of our hearts should be a confirmation of our wills. We, in our time, must dream and make our dreams come true.
Mary says she was one of the founders of the Greeley Foundation. Dana Greeley is right over there on the wall. I'm CCK, my mother was another founder of the Greeley Foundation, and there are several people in this room who were pivotal and active, and I'm not going to start calling out names lest I do it poorly. However, I do want to say that 3 of Dana and Debbie Greeley's 4 daughters are here today. And right over here, wave your hand. And Cindy, who lives with Penny. So they, like their mother for the days and the years that she was still around, have been really guiding lights to the work of the Greeley Foundation. And I'm going to say just very briefly, sort of the short 3-sentence tour of what the foundation did. Initially, in its first phase, the foundation did a lot of international work on peace and justice. For example, working with Margarita Papandreou and others in Greece for an International Women's Summit for Peace. Working with Bill Urian Jimmy Carter on the sort of early phases of what eventually became international negotiation. And then made a shift, a more local shift. It had to do with various different pragmatic circumstances. But for the next 20 years or so, the foundation focused more regionally, and that's the time when I was involved directly in office. We gave grants and support to programs, community-based grassroots organizations in the greater Boston, Lowell, or Eastern Mass area that focused on underserved youth, brought people together in communities for, for rights, for access, for education, for housing. A couple of the programs that we supported in their very early days, which I think are kind of stars now, through no fault of ours, but really they get the credit. The UTech program in Lowell, which does an amazing array of services and projects with young men and women who are highly at risk, building their lives. And the Food Project, based in Lincoln and also in Roxbury, bridging youth from urban and suburban programs, growing food, learning leadership. In time, the foundation sort of realized its arc of life was coming to a close. So, and at that time I happened to be on the board, and we worked together to find some missions that could continue the work in the name of Dana. And there are 4 or 5 of these that continue to exist in the world. One has to do with Harvard Divinity School, another with the World Conference on Religion and Peace, a couple of others, and this one. And I was very touched by how many of the phrases that Mary just shared with you out of the book Forward Through the Ages speak so directly to the Greeley Peace Scholar. Reaching out into the world and bringing people together. I feel that it has been one of the most effective and inspiring next generations of the Greeley Foundation. So we're very grateful to be any part of this, and glad to welcome you today.
I want to thank too, locally, when an event comes to our church, our social action teams work together and get busy planning. So for this visit, we have 3 teams who work together: the environmental team, the Racial Justice Action Group, and the Women's Parish Association. It's very fitting because Dayamani's work is at the intersection of all 3 of those social justice programs. Professor Ermita Gupta will be introducing Dayamani and her work. Do we have a video? So without really further ado, Dayamani is an activist, writer, a storyteller, a sincere environmentalist. And when I read about her, I think she could take an easy walk with Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson and share their space and their vision. It feels so sane to me. So I would like to introduce our speaker, or have her introduced by Professor Ermita Gupta is a professor of psychology at UMass Lowell, and she is also on the Greeley Advisory Committee at UMass Lowell and acting as our interpreter today as well. So Ermi.
Thank you so much, Marilyn, and thank you so much, everyone, for organizing the event, for your involvement in the Greeley Foundation, which has brought all of us here today. It is such an honor to be able to introduce today's speaker, Adivasi activist Dayamani Barla. who in the last 2 weeks that she has been with us has now become the MNEDD for us, older sister. The MNEDD is a leader, an organizer, a journalist, a writer, a storyteller from the state of Jharkhand, which is in central India. She is known as the Iron Lady of Jharkhand. And there are a lot of reasons why she's known for that. And there's also a symbolic reason that I'll just explain in a bit. The Barla has been at the forefront of resistance against displacement and dispossession of indigenous people in the state, indigenous or Adivasi people. And this dispossession and displacement have happened because of state violence, because of neoliberal development projects, and various kinds of industrial expansions. Jharkhand is also a state that is very rich in minerals, including iron ore. And so a lot of companies, they try to set up steel plants because they have easy access to iron ores. And she has been, all her life, she has been fighting against these projects and trying to protect the water, jal or water, jungle or forests, zameen or land from this kind of destruction. And also protecting the minerals, the mineral-rich state, which is why she's known as the Iron Lady. She has been taking on powerful entities like state, like multinational companies, even armed groups when she needs to. She's also been working towards sustainable existence, and maybe she'll speak to that a little bit today. Over the last 2 weeks, she has been talking a lot about how we can re-envision economies that are agriculture-based or that are nature-based, rather than those that are based on investment or production. Along with her husband, Nelson Barla, Dhamini runs a small tea shop. And this tea shop is at the center of her community and of her activism. And this is what helps her sustain her farm. So she has been very deliberate in never holding a salaried position. She always does independent work. And she believes in fighting for justice, and she believes in the power of forging connections between fighters who are on different front lines, fighting against injustice in the world. And I know that you will not be disappointed today. You'll leave here feeling energized, feeling inspired. And something that I also wanted to leave us with, and perhaps in many ways it's, this is something that you all recognize anyway, but I just wanted to touch upon language justice and the importance of language justice, which is really about access to language, and also the, access to language also as a capacity. To what extent do people have the right and the freedom to express themselves in their own language? And we understand, and in our Greeley committee, we understand the importance of language justice, where we create conditions where we remove barriers. So it's not a matter of, making English accessible to more people, but it's a matter of how do we create spaces where we can, where what language one speaks does not have to be a barrier. So that was something that was also on our minds when we selected the MNEG, that whether someone can speak English or not should not be a criterion for why we select someone for their activism. So with this, I would like to also we have a really short clip here. So you'll be hearing from the MNEG, but this will give you a quick glimpse into some of her work before she starts.
Everybody see this fairly well over there?
First full screen.
Yep. Sound and full screen.
Technology.
That's
Can everybody see on which we moved them?
No, it's fine.
No, Peter?
Sound?
Yeah. We moved it, so we moved it. Shed the roof.
I'm suspecting the sound is because of the setting. Everything.
The sound would be nice, but there are actually subtitles in this because it is all in, is it?
On the right, it's scheduled. What do you want to know?
Oh, let's play it. You were missing some wonderful voices and chants.
Got some wonderful goals.
This will be mobile speaker. Now can everybody see? Raise your hand if you can't hear or you can't see. We can fix that. I hope that. We call it
I'll have to stop it to get sound.
Okay,
Sorry.
yes, sure.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yes.
So I'm trying to get to my settings, but see this part. It's on the icons.
How about we can pause while they're waiting?
What we're thinking is, if it takes
How do I
much
get the
longer, we have Money Barla here with us.
Yes.
So nothing, so it's a good substitute for someone here. This link, if you go to the Greeley Peace Scholar at UMass Lowell and just scroll down, you will find Money Barla. You will find 3 different links. This is one of them about her work in India. And they're wonderful to watch. You won't have a sound issue, and we won't take away from our time. So if that's okay, we'll just do it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're okay without it.
Don't worry about it.
Bruce.
मैं देवनी बारला इंडिया के झारखंड राज्य के आदिवासी समुदाय की तरफ से और पूरे भारत के आदिवासी दलित किसान समुदाय की तरफ से जो हम जल जंगल जमीन पर्यावरण की रक्षा सामाजिक न्याय की रक्षा के लिए संघर्ष कर रहे हैं आप तमाम कोंगड़ की जो यहाँ ग्रीली फाउंडेशन के मेंबर हैं और यहाँ के आप तमाम जितने भी समाज के शुभ चिंतक हैं आप लोगों को मेरे तरफ से जोहार।
I am Dayamani Barla, and I greet you from the Adivasi people of India. I come from Jharkhand. So on behalf of the Adivasi communities and also on behalf of Dalit people in India and all farm workers, agricultural workers in India, I would like to greet you. For those of us who work to protect water, land, forests, who work towards environmental justice, who work towards social justice, it is my honor to be here today in the first parish of Concord and also the Greeley Foundation. Those of you who are here who also deeply care about society, to all of you, I would like to say Johar. This is the greeting that they use where she's from.
मैं यूमस लॉल को ये धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ कि मुझे यहाँ आने का अवसर दिए और साथ में मैं ग्रीली स्कॉलर की एडवाइजरी बोर्ड के जितने मेंबर हैं और उनके साथ ग्रीली स्कॉलर जो एडवाइजरी बोर्ड के चेयर हैं उनमें दाता जी मैं सबको को दिल से मैं धन्यवाद देती हूँ जोहार देती हूँ और बधाई भी देती हूँ कि आपने आपके पास आने का और हमारे संघर्ष को साझा करने का अवसर आपने मुझे दिए हैं।
I would like to thank UMass Lowell. I would also like to thank the Greeley Scholar Advisory Committee at UMass Lowell and the chair, Urmi. To all of them, I would like to offer my heartfelt gratitude and johar. I would also like to congratulate you all for the work that you have been doing and which has given me the opportunity to come here today and to connect our struggles for social justice.
मैं धन्यवाद और बधाई देना चाहती हूँ यहाँ आप लोगों में जब परिचय दे रहे थे 3-4 हमारे जो प्रबुद्ध लोगों का, जिसमें आप लोगों ने ये बात बता रहे थे कि रेवरेंड डॉक्टर नाना मैकलिन ग्रेली समाज के लिए, समाज की शांति के लिए, सामाजिक न्याय के लिए, पर्यावरण के न्याय के लिए और पूरे समग्र समुदाय के लिए वो चिंता करते थे। और उसके नाम से आप लोगों ने ग्रेली फाउंडेशन बनाए हैं। और आप लोगों का जो लक्ष्य है कि मानव को हम जोड़ेंगे और समाज को हम जोड़ेंगे और प्रकृति और समाज की रक्षा के साथ हम अपने फाउंडेशन का हम विस्तार करेंगे। आप लोगों को मैं तहे दिल से पूरे भारत के समुदाय की तरफ से, आदिवासी समुदाय की तरफ से, ग्रेली फाउंडेशन के तमाम सदस्यों को हम बधाई देना चाहते हैं।
I would also like to thank, congratulate and honor the distinguished guests who spoke, the people who are here today, who have been part of the Greeley Foundation. It has been an honor for me to learn about Reverend Dana McLean Greeley and his work on the way that he cared about society, about social justice, about peace, and how his vision was about protecting people, caring for people from all communities, to bring different communities together, to connect humanity, to connect society, and to connect nature. And that you all work together to advance his vision. For that, I offer you heartfelt thank you and recognition, not just from myself, but from all the Adivasi indigenous people in India for the work that you're doing.
मैं शुरू में रेवरेंड डॉक्टर डाना मैकलिन ग्रेली के नाम से ग्रेली स्कॉलर पीस स्टडी के लिए जब मेरा चयन हुआ तो मैं बहुत एक बार के लिए मैं चौंक गई थी कि मैंने कभी सुना नहीं था कि रेवरेंड यानी हमारे समझ में जो मैं समझती हूँ रेवरेंड का मतलब पास्टर भी होता है। तो मैं सोचने लगी कि ये रेवरेंड डॉक्टर डाना के नाम से के ग्रेली स्कॉलर शुरू किया गया। तो सही में मैं चौंक गई थी कि मैंने एक क्रिश्चियन सोसाइटी भारत में, मैं हर जाति और समुदाय के बीच में रहती हूँ, काम करती हूँ, लेकिन मैंने बहुत कम इस तरह से विशेष करके मैं जहां से आती हूँ एक पास्टर के नाम से जो इस तरह का काम शुरू हुआ है वो मैं नहीं देखी थी।
In the beginning, when I was first selected for this award, I was very surprised because I had not heard about a reverend who I also think of as a pastor in where I'm from in India to be associated with this kind of work. I live amongst people from various communities, from various religious communities in India, but I have not seen a pastor there involved in this kind of work, so I was surprised.
असली कि मैं आदिवासी समुदाय से आती हूँ लेकिन मैं क्रिश्चियन जो क्या बोलते हैं आस्था है उसके साथ भी मैं विश्वास रखती हूँ और मैं देखती हूँ कि मैं समाज के लिए लड़ती हूँ, समाज के लिए मैं जरूरत पड़ता है तो सिस्टम के खिलाफ मैं खड़ा होके मैं उन्हें रोकने का कोशिश करती हूँ और जो भी सरकार की पॉलिसियां समाज के खिलाफ में होता है वो सरकार के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई नहीं होती है लेकिन उस आइडियोलॉजी के खिलाफ और उस पॉलिसी के खिलाफ पूरा जीवन हमने संघर्ष किया है, लड़ा है, जेल भी मैं गई हूँ। तो मैं सोच रही थी कि किस रेवरेंड के नाम से ये जो ग्रीली स्कॉलर है और मुझे उसके लिए चयन किया गया असली है कि पास्टर लोग अमूमन झगड़ा करना, लड़ाई करना पसंद नहीं करते हैं।
I'm from an Adivasi community in India. And even though I'm from an Adivasi community in India, I do believe in Christian principles and values. But at the same time, my primary role has been that of a fighter. Whenever there is injustice, I raise my voice against the system. So whenever there are government policies that are created, which we see as anti-people or anti-society, we fight against those ideologies and those policies. Where my confusion and surprise came from when I was selected as the Greeley Scholar was that this was named after a reverend, and from what I knew, they are peace-loving people and they are not people who are necessarily who condone fighting. And my work was primarily fighting.
मैं इस बात को असली में बोल रही हूँ कि हमारे यहाँ बहुत सारे चर्चेस हैं लेकिन आज की तारीख में मेरे जैसा आदमी को चर्च का एक हिस्सा भी लोग मानने से उन लोगों को झिझक होती है इसलिए मैं ये बात आप लोगों से मैं शेयर कर रही हूँ। सारे लोगों का विश्वास है कि हम लोगों ने बाइबल में सीखा है एक गाल में मार दिया तो दूसरे भी डाल दो लेकिन आप उसका विरोध मत करो।
I'm sharing this because we have lots of churches in India, lots of churches around me, but there is no church that would recognize me in the way that you are. And I also think that from what we have been told, what the Bible preaches is that if someone slaps you, that you don't react, you give your other cheek as well.
लेकिन मैं तो समाज में जो भी अन्याय होता है मैं रिएक्ट करती हूँ।
But for me, whenever there is any injustice in society, I react.
और आज की तारीख में जब हम आदिवासी समाज की बात करेंगे, किसान समाज की बात करेंगे, दलित समाज की बात करेंगे, जंगल की बात करेंगे, जमीन की बात करेंगे, नदी और पहाड़ को सुरक्षित रखने की बात करेंगे और सोशल जस्टिस की बात करेंगे, क्लाइमेट जस्टिस की बात करेंगे, एनवायरनमेंट जस्टिस की बात करेंगे, तो बहुत सारे ऐसे ताकतें हैं जो समाज को उजाड़ रही हैं, जो पूरे जंगल को नाश कर रही हैं, पूरे सोसाइटी को उजाड़ रहे हैं, उनके जीविका को उजाड़ रहे हैं। तब अगर हम शांत रहेंगे, हम रिएक्ट नहीं करेंगे और हम एक्शन के साथ समाज को बचाने की कोशिश नहीं करेंगे, हम संघर्ष नहीं करेंगे, तो हम नहीं कह सकते हैं कि इस दुनिया में, इस धरती में सोशल जस्टिस आएगा। हम नहीं मान सकते हैं कि इस धरती में क्लाइमेट जस्टिस आएगा। हम नहीं मान सकते हैं कि एनवायरनमेंट जस्टिस होगा, या तो हम ह्यूमन राइट्स की बात नहीं कर सकते हैं।
in today's world, when we think about Dalit people, Adivasi people, people who work on the farms, agricultural workers, when we talk about water, forest, land, rivers, mountains, or about environmental justice or social justice, when we look at the ways in which all of these things, along with people's livelihoods, are being destroyed and devastated, how can we talk about justice? If we don't fight, if we don't join in struggle, we cannot say that we are working for social justice. We need to save the earth. And this means that we need to save all of these things from destruction. And that is going to show us the path for climate justice or environmental justice, or even when we talk about human rights.
मैं आदिवासी समाज से आती हूँ और आदिवासी समाज का जंगल के साथ रहना, जंगल को साफ करके जमीन बनाना, गांव को बसाना, खेती लायक जमीन बनाना और जंगल में जितने भी जीव जंतु हैं उनके साथ उनका मित्रता के साथ एक परिवार बनाना और पूरे इकोसिस्टम को अपना कुटुंब बनाना, ये निश्चित रूप से जब हम देखते हैं तो आदिवासी समाज का जो जीवन शैली है वो दूसरे समाज से बिल्कुल भिन्न है।
I'm from an Adivasi community. For us, forest is very integral to our existence. We clear the forest, we clear parts of the forests to build our dwellings. We clear parts of the forests to build agricultural land. We also protect the forest and we coexist with the animals in the forest. So for us, all of these things together constitute an ecosystem. This is our family, and all of the different parts of this ecosystem are our relatives. So this way of life, that is from way of life of Adivasi communities, is very distinct from many other communities.
इसीलिए पूरे वर्ल्ड में हम देखेंगे कि कहीं भी या तो साउथ अफ्रीका के आदिवासियों का हिस्ट्री हम देखेंगे या तो अमेरिका के नेटिव अमेरिकनों का हिस्ट्री देखेंगे या तो इंडिया के आदिवासियों का हिस्ट्री हम देखेंगे, जब भी उनके जंगल के साथ छेड़छाड़ किया, नदी और झरनों के साथ छेड़छाड़ किया, उनके हाथ से जमीन लूटने का काम किया, चाहे वो सरकार की नीतियां या तो आज की तारीख में कारपोरेट की पॉलिसियां, हमेशा उन लोगों ने उसके खिलाफ में संघर्ष किया है।
We see this across the world, whether they are indigenous people in South Africa or Native Americans in the US or Adivasi people in India. Whenever their forests, rivers, brooks, and lands are violated, people organize and they struggle against these violations, whether the violations are by multinational companies or by the state.
बहुत क्षेत्र से आदिवासी यूनाइट नहीं हो सके थे और उनके सामने बड़ी जो सत्ता की ताकत थी, उस सत्ता ने उनको के हाथ से सारा चीज अपने हाथ में ले लिया। आदिवासी आज बेघर बार हो गए हैं, आज उनकी पहचान खत्म हो गई है। लेकिन भारत के आदिवासियों की बात करेंगे, झारखंड के आदिवासियों की बात करेंगे, आज भी हम जो राज सत्ता है, जो कारपोरेट घरानों के साथ जो राज सत्ता की जो ताकतें अलायंस होके हमें हमसे जंगल लूटना चाहता है, जमीन लूटना चाहता है, अभी भी हम यूनाइट हैं और अभी भी हम उनके खिलाफ में संघर्ष कर रहे हैं, इसलिए कि हम यूएस का नेटिव अमेरिकनों की तरह हम लैंडलेस ना हो जाए, उनकी तरह हम पूरी तरह से अपना पहचान खो ना दे, इसलिए हम भारत के आदिवासी और झारखंड के आदिवासी आज भी हम लड़ रहे हैं।
In many parts of the world, indigenous people have been they have been reduced, they have been deprived of their lands, their identities. Their lands have been grabbed, and they have been colonized in ways where they have lost a lot. We have learned from this, and we strongly believe that in Jharkhand, we have to keep fighting. So when we see what has happened or what has been done to the Native Americans in the US, we feel that we have to stop that from happening to us as well. So when we have entities that are trying to dispossess us of our land and water, we come together, we unite, and we are fighting against that.
हम लोग जानते हैं कि हम लोग जमीन बचाने की जो लड़ाई कर रहे हैं, सबको भोजन मिले, जंगल बचाने की लड़ाई इसलिए कर रहे हैं कि सबको शुद्ध हवा मिले, नदी और झरनों को बचाने की लड़ाई इसलिए लड़ रहे हैं कि सबको जीवित रहने के लिए शुद्ध पानी पीने के लिए मिले। हम लोग सिर्फ अपना इंडिविजुअल लाइफ की बात हम नहीं कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हम होल सोसाइटी, होल नेशन जीवित रहे और साथ में हम भी जिंदा रहे, इसकी लड़ाई जल जंगल जमीन बचाने की लड़ाई है, ये मेरा मानना है।
When we are trying to save lands, what we are trying to fight for is proper food and good and healthy food for everyone. When we are trying to protect the forest, we are trying to ensure fresh air for people, for everyone to breathe. When we are trying to protect our rivers and our brooks, we are trying to ensure fresh water for everyone. So our fights are not for our individual selves, but we are fighting for the whole society, for entire nations. That is what I believe our fight for water, land, and forest, those struggles are about.
ग्रीली स्कॉलर के लिए मेरा नाम नॉमिनेट करने के लिए मैं उर्मी जी को धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ कि मेरा ये मानना है कि ग्रीली स्कॉलर के लिए मेरा नाम जरूर नाम तो आया है, लेकिन एक संघर्ष को आपने नॉमिनेट किया है, जो हमने अपने स्टूडेंट लाइफ से आज तक समाज के लिए जिया है। अपना छोटा सा चाय दुकान खड़ा करके मेरे परिवार के साथ 96 से आज तक हमने चाय दुकान चला के समाज के लिए हमारी कमाई में से हर एक पैसा को हमने खर्च किया है। मेरा समय का एक एक मिनट मैंने अपने समाज के लिए दिया है। आज आपने हमें आप लोगों के बीच में लाने का काम किए हैं। मैं पूरे समाज के तरफ से मैं फिर से आप लोगों को धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ कि आपने हमारे संघर्ष के ताकत को बढ़ाने का काम किए हैं, और मैं पूरा उम्मीद के साथ आप लोगों से कहना चाहती हूँ कि मैं आगे भी जितनी ताकत के साथ अपने समाज के लिए संघर्ष किया है, उतनी ही ताकत के साथ आगे भी हम अपने समाज के लिए संघर्ष करेंगे। ये मैं आप लोगों के साथ मैं साझा करके अपनी बात यहाँ समाप्त करना चाहती हूँ। आप लोगों को फिर से मेरे तरफ से धन्यवाद और आप लोगों को मेरे तरफ से बधाई।
I would like to thank Urmi for nominating me for this Greeley Award. But you have not just nominated an individual person, you have nominated a struggle. Since I have been a student, I have lived for my society and struggled for my society, for my community. I started my tea shop in 1996. Since then, any earning from this tea shop has been committed to my society. Each and every minute of mine I do not own that is devoted to my community, my society. And therefore, that you have brought me here today, I would like to thank you on behalf of my entire community and on behalf of our struggle. In inviting me here and in bringing our struggle into these spaces, you have bolstered our struggle. With a lot of hope, I would like to reassure you that as I go back, I am going to continue to fight with the strength that I have been fighting so far. And I'm going back with being even more energized. And with that, again, I would like to thank you all for bringing me here today.
So, we do have time for any questions, and Irvy's willing to translate. Any questions from the crowd? Mary?
I have a question. You were such a fiery speaker, I can imagine the government stands and interpretations you had. I heard that you also were put in jail, right? Why? Why and what happened? Tell us the story.
जब मैं जंगल, जमीन, नदी, पहाड़ को बचाने की लड़ाई लड़ रही हूँ, एक तरफ वो समाज को बचा रही हूँ, लेकिन दूसरे तरफ जो जंगल, पहाड़ और पानी को अपना कब्जा में लेना चाहता है और उससे वो मुनाफा कमाना चाहता है, अपना पूंजी बढ़ाना चाहता है, तो मेरा जंगल जमीन बचाने का जो लड़ाई है अगला व्यक्ति के इंटरेस्ट के खिलाफ में है। और जब अगला व्यक्ति का इंटरेस्ट को धक्का लगता है, अगला व्यक्ति का इंटरेस्ट के खिलाफ मैं खड़ी हूं, तो निश्चित रूप से सत्ता का पावर उनके पास है, उनके पास मनी पावर है, उनके पास मसल पावर है, तो बोलेगा कि नहीं इनको रोकना है तो जेल में डालना है, और जेल में डालो तो ये शांत हो जाएगा। तो इसीलिए उनको लगा कि मैं शांत हो जाऊंगी, तो उन्होंने मुझे जेल में डाला।
So, as I work to protect the forests, mountains, lands, and waterways, on one hand, what I'm doing is I'm protecting society. But on the other hand, there are people who try to control all of these as resources. They want to earn profit out of these resources, and they want to increase their wealth. So my fight is inherently against their interest. So when our fight is strengthened and we are successful, then their interests suffer. I stand against them, so obviously they have to find a way to react. And these are the people who have political power, economic power, muscle power. So then they're able to collude with the state to basically put me into jail. And they do that thinking that they can silence me by putting me in jail.
Can you, yes, this is a two-part question. How do you fight the government and the policies? Do you have people who run for office? Do they vote for or against policies? And then the second part is, how do you fight the the large corporations? What do you specifically, can you give us an example?
गवर्नमेंट की जो पॉलिसियां हैं, जिसको हम जन विरोधी नीति कहेंगे, उसके खिलाफ कैसे हम लड़ते हैं, इसके लिए थोड़ा सा मुझको अपना जो ट्रेडिशनल राइट्स हैं और ट्रेडिशनल राइट्स के साथ हमारा अपना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल जो राइट्स है, उसमें फोकस करना होता है। असली की आदिवासी समाज का जंगल जमीन को साफ करके अपने तरह से उन्होंने खेत को बनाया है, गांव को बसाया है और उस जंगल जमीन को उन्होंने अपना ट्रेडिशनल राइट्स माना है कि ये इलाका को हमने हमारे एंसेस्टर ने साफ किया, इसलिए इस यहाँ पर हमारा राइट्स है। और जब अंग्रेजों के खिलाफ, अंग्रेजों के हाथ में ये भारत था, उनके गुलामी के इसमें हाथ में, उस समय हमारे लोगों ने, पूर्वजों ने जो नया जमीन संबंधी कानून आदिवासी समाज के ऊपर में थोपने का काम किया, तो हमारे जो पूर्वज हैं अंग्रेजों के खिलाफ भी संघर्ष किए। जब देश आजाद हुआ, तब देश आजाद होने के बाद भारत में नया जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना, तब उस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में आदिवासियों के लिए, दलितों के लिए, अति दलितों के लिए उनके जंगल पर, उनके जमीन पर, उनके नदी नाला पर उनका जो अपना ट्रेडिशनल राइट्स है, उसी के आधार पर भारत के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में हमारे लिए 5th शेड्यूल और 6th शेड्यूल बना। अब वो 5th शेड्यूल और 6th शेड्यूल पूरी तरह से उसमें समाज को कलेक्टिव राइट्स देता है जंगल और जमीन पर। तो जब भी हम लड़ाई लड़ते हैं सरकार के पॉलिसी के खिलाफ में, तब हम अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट्स के साथ हम लड़ते हैं कि ये हमारा संघर्ष का हथियार है, कि हमारा अधिकार ये करता है कि हमारे गांव के जो आम लोग हैं उनसे के सहमति के बिना आप जंगल और जमीन नहीं ले सकते हैं। तब आपने हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का मतलब उल्लंघन करके, उनको तोड़ के आप ये जमीन आप हमसे नहीं ले सकते हैं। ये हमारा संवैधानिक अधिकार है लड़ाई लड़ने का।
So when we come across policies, government policies that we see as anti-people, to tell you about how we fight it, I have to tell you a little bit about our traditional rights. These traditional rights are guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. So when we look at it historically, the lands that we have and the forests that we have, these were all protected and cared for by our ancestors. So they were the ones who created agricultural lands and who created villages. On that basis, we believe that we have collective rights over these lands and forests. Even during British colonial rule, when the British tried to impose all kinds of land regulations, our ancestors fought against those. So they really fought to protect our to protect our traditional rights. When India became independent and a new constitution was formed, the constitution had rights that were built into it, which were supposed to protect Adivasis, Dalit people, and various other marginalized people, and protect the kind of collective and traditional rights that they have in relation to lands, forests, and waterways. And these are guaranteed through the 5th and 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. So what it also means is that any entity cannot come and take away our lands without the consent of people. So and when people do that without consent, when corporations do that without consent, they're basically violating our constitutional rights and they're violating the Constitution. So these rights that have been guaranteed to us, that is our tool and that's what we are armed with. So whenever those violations happen, we fight for it based on those rights.
सरकार नहीं सुनती है तब हम रैलियां करते हैं, हम धरना देते हैं, हम बड़ी बड़ी रैलियां करते हैं, मास हमारा मूवमेंट होता है, सरकार को हम दबाव देते हैं, सरकार सुनती है, झुकती है तो हम जीत जाते हैं। लेकिन हम कोशिश करते हैं हमारा रैली वायलेशन से पूरी तरह से अलग रहता है, हम वायलेशन नहीं चाहते हैं।
When the state does not listen to us, we organize mass movements. We organize rallies, protests, sit-ins, marches, and we try to put pressure on the government. But however we organize, we make sure that we do not violate important principles.
आपने अगला सवाल पूछा कि क्या वहाँ इलेक्शन लड़ते हैं जो पब्लिक के हित के खिलाफ जो पॉलिसियां नहीं आती हैं उसको देखते हुए क्या आप यहाँ इलेक्शन लड़ा जाता है? तो निश्चित रूप से भारत में जो इलेक्शन के लिए बेसिकली दो ध्रुव हैं, एक एनडीए की ध्रुव है और एक यूपीए की ध्रुव है, और हमेशा हम लोग को तो सपोर्ट है यूपीए ध्रुव का, और जहां पर यूपीए ध्रुव जहां लोकतंत्र की बात होती है और जब यूपीए गवर्नमेंट सत्ता में रहती है तो भी मतलब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का वायलेशन होता है, तो भी मतलब हम लोग को उसको लेके कि नहीं हमको नए सिस्टम खड़ा करना है और नए लोगों को खड़ा करना है ताकि ये जो मतलब मनी मसल पावर और ये क्या बोलते हैं सत्ता का पावर से ये प्रभावित होके जो लीडर सत्ता के साथ होता है उनके खिलाफ हम लोग इलेक्शन में हम ऐसे लोगों को वोटिंग करने की कोशिश करते हैं जो जनता के आवाजों को का प्रतिनिधित्व करते हैं, जनता के इस सोच को के लिए वो इलेक्शन लड़ना चाहता है। तो ये ऐसा है और हम लोग इस प्रक्रिया को हम लोग समर्थन करते हैं।
So in India, we have two main political threads, coalitions in some sense. One is the National Democratic Alliance and the other is the UPA. So, and these are potential coalitions. So mostly we support the UPA, which is a little bit more democratic. But even when they are in power, there are constitutional violations that happen. So across the board, we advocate for new systems and for new people in those systems. So we want to move away from leaders who are influenced by money, and who work in proximity with muscle power, with political power. So instead, we want to move away to try to vote in people who will amplify people's voices. So this kind of trying to change policy through electoral politics is something that we support.
आपका एक सवाल था कि बड़े हुए कंपनियों के साथ हम कैसे मुकाबला करते हैं। सबको ये सवाल पूछते हैं। बहुत कठिन है कंपनियों का मुकाबला करने के लिए, लेकिन अगर आप में समाज के प्रति आपका कमिटमेंट मजबूत है और समाज के प्रति आपकी ईमानदारी है, तो समाज आपके साथ निश्चित रूप से खड़ा होगा। और जब समाज आपके कमिटमेंट को वो सपोर्ट करता है, तो आप बड़ा कंपनियों के साथ भी लड़ाई लड़ने में आप सक्षम होंगे। ये मेरा अपना अनुभव, मैंने खुद का लीडरशिप में 3-4 लड़ाइयां लड़ी, उसमें मैंने महसूस किया है।
So the other question was about how I fight against large multinational companies. Everyone asks me this question. It is very, very difficult to confront, to contend with large multinational companies because of how powerful they are. But in my experience, it has been my experience that if you are really committed to your cause and if you work with integrity and have conviction, then your community and your society is going to back you, and they're going to stand with you. In my experience of really fighting, having these big fights with at least 3 or 4 big companies, this is what I have experienced.
A slightly different thing.
Take your mask off.
Thanks. I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit about your time with the students and whether what you feel about what they absorb and learn from what you're doing with them. What you think of them and what you think they're absorbing of what you're telling them. Basically, how do you feel about your work with us?
मैं जब से सामाजिक आंदोलन में हूँ और ये कहना चाहिए कि पीपल्स मूवमेंट में हूँ, ऐसा तो अमूमन में युवाओं के बीच मेरे मूवमेंट में 50% युवा होते हैं, 50% महिला होते हैं। और मैं उनको लगातार संविधान के बारे में, उनके राइट्स के बारे में मैं बोलते रहती हूँ, तो एक तरफ से मैं उनके साथ भी संघर्ष का साथी और उनको सिखलाने का काम करती हूँ, और ये मेरा पुराना आदत है। लेकिन यहाँ जो मैं यूमास लॉ में आके मैं छात्रों के साथ थी, फैकल्टी के साथ थी, प्रोफेसर के साथ थी, और यहाँ पर बहुत सारे सवालें थे जो झारखंड के सवाल, इंडिया के सवाल और आदिवासी समुदाय जो संघर्ष कर रहा है और संघर्ष क्यों कर रहा है, इनका जो उत्तर मैंने आंसर हमारे पास हमेशा रहता है। ग्लोबल वार्मिंग क्यों है, हमारे पास इसका जवाब हमेशा रहता है। ये जो अटलांटिक महासागर का जो ग्लेशियर क्यों पिघल रहा है, वो सवाल हमेशा हम जो संघर्ष कर रहे हैं उनके जुबान में रहता है, उनका तकनीकी हमें समझ में आती है। तो ये तमाम चीजों को यहाँ शेयर करने का यहाँ सभी कई देश के विद्यार्थियों के साथ शेयर करने का मौका मिला, एक दूसरे से कम्युनिकेट करने का मौका मिला। बहुत सारे सवाल इन्होंने पूछा और बहुत सारे सवालों का जवाब मतलब देते हुए मुझे और भी कई चीजों को उनको समझाने के लिए मतलब तथ्यों को उनके सामने प्रस्तुत करने का भी मौका मिला। तो ये मुझे तो बहुत ही, मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ा अवसर था, और मुझको लगा कि नहीं, मैं इस तरह का जो कम्युनिकेशन है बड़े महानगरों में दूसरे देश के छात्रों के साथ, युवाओं के साथ लगातार करते रहे, मुझको यही महसूस होने लगा।
Since the time that I have been involved with people's movements, I have been working with young people. Youth or young people constitute about 50% of our movement. So I'm very used to talking to young people about constitution, about constitutional rights. So even as I teach them, I also see them as my comrades in struggle. So when I met students in UMass Lowell, I also met a lot of faculty, and they came with lots and lots of questions. They asked me questions about why Adivasi people are struggling, why is global warming happening, why are the glaciers melting in the Atlantic Ocean? And in some ways, the answers to these are often at the tip of my tongue. So I really enjoyed being able to meet students who came from all over the world and to share some of these things. And I was really impressed with how many questions they asked, and that we got an opportunity to communicate, to share information, and that this was also an important platform for me to be able to present critical information to students. So for me, this was an amazing experience where I got to meet with students from different cities, from different countries, in the context of the university. So it's been exciting.
One more question? Is there a question there?
I just wanted to know more about your work and how can we help to support you?
मैं थोड़ा सा आपने जो सवाल किया उसमें मैं कैसे संघर्ष कर रही हूँ, मुझको कहने के लिए थोड़ा सा क्या बोलेंगे, असुविधा होता है। असली की मैंने जो अपने जिंदगी में जो देखा है, समाज के इर्द गिर्द जो घटना घटी है और राज्य में जो घटना घटी है और पूरे देश में जो घटना घट रही है, समाज के ऊपर में, देश के ऊपर में, लोगों के जिंदगी पर, वो मैं शुरू से देख रही हूँ और मैंने अपना बिल्कुल बचपना से शुरू किया इसको देखना समझना। इसलिए कभी कभी मैं सोचती हूँ कि संघर्ष कहाँ से शुरू की, कैसे शुरू की, वो नहीं बता पाती हूँ। असली की मेरा हर कदम, जितना जब मैं छोटी थी तब अपने को बचाने का, अपना रोजी रोटी का, अपना जिंदगी का वो मैं देखती थी कि कैसे होगा, बाद में समाज कैसे बचेगा, ये राज्य कैसे बचेगा, राज्य में शांति स्थापित कैसे होगी, पूरा देश का संसाधन कैसे बचेगा, मल्टीनेशनल कंपनियां कैसे हमारे देश को लूटना बंद करेंगे, किस तरह से कम्युनलिज्म का जो ये जो फंडा है ना वो समाज को बांट रहा है, उससे हम कैसे रोकेंगे। बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, संघर्ष का कोई एक नाम नहीं है।
So often when I talk about struggle, I experience some discomfort. It's difficult to name what it is. For me, struggle has come from the things that I have witnessed around me, in my family, in my community, in society, in the country actually, the kind of injustice that's taking place against people's lives. So for me, my work started as a child, based on things that I witnessed, the way that I had to survive, how I had to feed myself. And now those are issues that have expanded to the whole community. So my work right now is focused on how we can save my state, my community, the country from multinationals taking over. Another key area of work is figuring out how to maintain peace and how to build peace against the kind of communal divides that is being perpetuated by those who are in power right now.
आज हम महसूस करते हैं कि हम अपने संविधान की बात करते हैं, संवैधानिक राइट्स की बात करते हैं और भारत ने हमें संवैधानिक अधिकार दिया है, जीने का अधिकार दिया है, बोलने का अधिकार दिया है, खाने पीने का अधिकार दिया है, धर्म को मानने का अधिकार दिया है, हमें अपनी संस्थाएं चलाने का अधिकार दिया है, सभी अधिकार दिया है। लेकिन आज की तारीख में हम अपने पूरे समाज के भीतर या तो देश की पॉलिसी के भीतर में हम अपने को ढूंढते हैं, अपना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट्स हम ढूंढते हैं, तब हमें लगता है कि हम नहीं लेकिन पूरा हमारा देश ही अभी संकट में है। तब ऐसे परिस्थिति में ये हम क्या लड़ रहे हैं, कैसे लड़ रहे हैं, कहना बहुत मुश्किल है। असली की हम लड़ रहे हैं, सभी शक्तियों के खिलाफ लड़ रहे हैं और समाज में हम जमीन बचाने की भी लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं, जंगल बचाने की भी लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं और अब तो हमने 2014 के बाद ये भी तय कर लिया है कि अगर हम जमीन बचाते हैं, जंगल बचाते हैं, मानव अधिकार को बचाने की लड़ाई लड़ते हैं और हम संविधान को बचाने की लड़ाई लड़ते हैं, तब अगर हम देख रहे हैं कि जो भी पॉलिटिकल फोर्सेस आते हैं वो सिर्फ उनको मनी पावर, मसल पावर के साथ अपनी सत्ता को चलाने की बात वो करते हैं, तब अब मुझे भी लगता है कि हम वहां पर क्यों नहीं जाएंगे जहां पर मतलब संविधान बनता है, जहां वो पार्लियामेंट में बनता है, लोकसभा में कानून बनता है। अब वो कानून को हम लागू करने के लिए क्यों हम तैयार नहीं होंगे? अब तो हमारी लड़ाई वहां तक भी है। अब आपको तय करना है कि आप किस तरह से मतलब बोल रहे हैं कि कैसे मदद करेंगे। पूरा खुला है, चारों तरफ खुला है मदद करने के लिए, देश के लोकतंत्र को मदद करने के लिए, देश के लड़ने वाले जो दलित हैं उनके लिए आपको मदद करने के लिए खुला है, आदिवासी संघर्ष को मदद करने के लिए सब दरवाजा खुला है। रास्ता आपको तलाशना है कि आप हमें कैसे मदद करेंगे, आपको तय करना है।
So right now we are fighting many fights. We are fighting for our constitutional rights. The Indian Constitution has given us rights and freedoms to live, to speak, to follow any religion we want, to form communities, to form organizations, to eat what we want. But all of these things are at risk right now. So we are fighting against this. We are fighting against entities that are trying to take away our constitutional rights. We are fighting against multinationals and other entities that are trying to take away our lands, our forests, our human rights. So the only thing that we have in common across all of these things is that we are fighting, because these fights are all connected and there are so many fights. And since 2014, this is when the current government came into power, since 2014, we have also realized that it is important for us to directly confront political forces. We and our communities, marginalized groups, need to go where laws and policies are being made. They need to go to the legislative assemblies, they need to go to the parliament, and we need to make new laws and we need to implement new policies. So that is also where our fights have gone now. So all these avenues are open. There are various marginalized communities in India who are at the front lines of these struggles. Adivasi people, Dalit people, other people who are fighting. So as far as I'm concerned, all of these avenues are open, and there are so many fights and so many ways that you can support this. And I would say that it is up to you. Now you need to decide how you're going to support these various struggles and where you're going to make an entryway into supporting these struggles.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Luigi. We have a small gift for you. And most importantly, this is for you to take home. We also are having a chai with Indian chai and Indian snacks in honor of a tea shop that is very busy. So please help yourself, stay for tea, and there is more conversation that we can have. But many, many thanks. For a busy schedule, we were very lucky. Diamani stayed an extra bit of time so she could be with us here today. So again,
आप लोगों को भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मुझको उर्मी बता रही थी कि यहाँ अमूमन पर चाय आप लोग नहीं पीते हैं, लेकिन आप लोग मेरे लिए चाय बना रहे हैं। ये मुझको उर्मी बताई तो मैं सोचने लगी कि अरे मेरे लिए चाय बनाए जा रही है। तो मैं आप लोगों को भी बहुत बहुत दिल से धन्यवाद देती हूँ कि आप लोगों ने मेरे लिए चाय बनाए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
I would like to thank you all. So when I heard from Urmi that you all don't usually drink tea with milk the way that we drink chai, and that you were making tea for me. It really touched me, and I would like to thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
मैं आप लोगों से एक ग्रुप फोटो भी मैं चाहूंगी आप लोग के साथ। इन लोगों से ग्रुप फोटो भी चाहिए।
She would like to take a photo with everyone.
Let's have these steps right here.